I think we're ready. All right, Sonam, give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen, and then I'll be ready to run. Excellent. Okay. So first of all, it'll be useful if you could just pop into the chat box if you're already using assessment tools. I imagine everybody's using something or the other. Uh, People like Rajan might struggle because he'll have to give 11 names, but whatever top two, three that you're using.
Or maybe he can write the one that he's not using.
Yeah, in Rajan's case, I think that's better. But
Okay.
Jeff has got all these names I've never heard. Cavlant, Dice. Hmm, good. And also, I mean, it's kind of tricky one to ask, but if there is a specific challenge you end up having, you don't necessarily have to point at a particular assessment when you say so, but you might say, okay, generally psychometrics, here's the problem I face. I mean, the one that I hear most from people is like, complexity of language. Sometimes that's what they struggle with. It takes too much time to explain language and all to people. That's one of the complaints we hear. So while you're putting down the assessments that you know and use, that's right, Divya. Oh, yeah, I remember now. You're working with young adults, right? Yeah. Divya, were you working with school kids or was it young adults?
So 11 to 19. So yeah, just
18, 19 Spark you can work with. Ease of language and all of that's fine. Any younger than that, I think even Spark
yeah.
maybe not the right tool. You should definitely give your email ID here to Mehak and we'll make sure that
Sure.
you at least get the samples so you can see for
Sure,
yourself.
that'd be great.
18, 19 you can. Yeah, Jeff, I see that long questionnaire. And you know what? I worked with other tools which used to take almost like, a full hour. And today it looks like the 15, 20 minutes that a Lumina takes, even that feels very long. Our attention span is shrinking. So language can be an issue. That's right. BIOS, I believe, also takes a long time, Nalina. It's a complicated tool, right? Very in-depth, but okay. So what we also have over here over time, of course, when we talk to people, when we're interacting with them for the first time, we ask things like, what is the challenge that you're currently facing? What is it that you're looking for in a new tool? Here are some of the things that we end up hearing. Like a lot of people will say, look, my clients are not interested in the data. They've reached out to me because they want to solve a problem. I don't seem to have enough solutions, ready to go with the tool. I spent 2 days, 3 days getting certified, but there weren't enough ready to run programming, etc. Another thing I discovered was that most of the practitioners, we work alone. So sometimes the challenge would be that there wasn't enough easy and quick support at hand. Sometimes there is no local support in the country for some of the products. Sometimes there is a presence, but the turnaround is very slow, and in some cases it's there but not very encouraging, etc., etc. There's just general feedback. Another one is lack of peer community. I don't know how many products actually have that because it's also hard to build a community. But yes, for people who are working alone, they're saying, well, there are some things that I need technically help and all, which is local support, but I also need guidance, collaboration, and somebody to generally kind of, share my tears with. Then lack of upgrade and enhancement. Many of the tools really haven't evolved over time. And of course, the biggest problem, I'm sure it's for our country, but everywhere else also, complexity and the cost of assessments. So when we were launching Lumina, we took into account a lot of these things. Obviously, we had a good tool in our hand, but having a good, powerful tool is just one thing. But to make its use easier is critical. So what we've tried to do is we've built ready-to-run programs. And of course, Lumina provides a whole bunch of programs. So in fact, in our community, whenever somebody's out there to run a program, they normally reach out to us when we try and give them something, whether it's executive presence, design thinking, emotional intelligence. We tell people, first ask us. We might have something ready to run because that's what the clients need. We have an India office, we have local support, but more than that, we've been able to bring the community together rather well, I feel, because on ongoing basis, you need people. I mean, we are distributors, no matter how much support we try to provide, and we are not the people in the trenches. Unlike a peer, there's constantly new enhancements coming. The Spark Coach launched a couple of years ago. It's a fantastic new addition to the suite now. Lumina's wonderful mobile app, which allows you to scan each other's personality, is also going through an upgrade. The report overcomes the complexity and language problem by creating an easy to read report, which is fully interpreted. In fact, it's so well interpreted that sometimes some coaches will ask me, if the report has told them everything, what am I going to do? So I have to remind them, they're not paying you to read English and explain words. You are here as a coach. Let them read the report, figure out what is the challenge they're facing. It's better to have a client who's bought into the challenge they're trying to deal with. Your job is to coach them, right? And also, we are always gathering little ideas that keep coming over here, to keep adding to this list of problems. So today we are going to focus on understanding the framework of Spark, see if we can talk a little bit about inner paradoxes that we face, because amongst many things, what Lumina tries to do is pick the best of the popular tools. Uh, and so it also measures, amongst other things, the inner paradoxes that human beings experience. Nobody is only on one side of the personality. We all have a little bit of this and that. Also to see how do you build rapport and overcome team dynamics. Um, all right. I want to now jump into generally talking about Lumina's three views of personality. So from a very, very dense data at the archetype level, it continues to open into 8 aspect view and then 24 quality. I'm aware that because of the time ticking, I will be speaking very fast. So please keep throwing questions. Sonam, Mehak will continue to answer them. And I'll also put a pause wherever I need to take a pause and answer questions. But in the interest of time, you'll find me speaking a little bit fast. So please bear with me. Archetypes, a term that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. You know what Carl Jung talked about, something that is represented in our collective memory. And Lumina uses the 4-color framework. Lumina is not the only one to use colors. In fact, there is a psychometric called colors. And also Insights Discovery is one of the tools. But like I said, in Lumina, you will find they've tried to provide to you the key things that are popular amongst the contemporary tools. So 4-box model, as you see in DISC and others, and the 4-color model, which is also popular, is available over here. So let me take you through this, because archetype means that the colors should make natural sense to you. I'll do the first one, and then I'll invite you to do the others. When I pop open a yellow color, there are images that come to my head. And as I'm going to say those images, probably some of you will say, yeah, that's exactly the one I saw, like sunshine, sunflower, emojis, light bulb, and maybe some of you are already thinking of things like that. And then I think of the emotion or the descriptors it inspires. Here are some of the things that I think of, right? And I would imagine some of you also thought of those things from the time you saw that yellow ball. Now, if you were to take all of this energy and put it into another person, into a human being, you will find that there is a certain way in which they act and behave, right? If they're going to be always excitable, positive, spontaneous, full of ideas, of course they'll be creative and extremely cheerful. But you can also find that they might sometimes be overly impractical. Everything looks like a good idea, right? And without the sort of patience to kind of hunker down and do much research. Now, let's do the next one together. I've popped open the green color, and I'm inviting you now to share with me what are some of the images that are coming to you. Let's see if I can get the chat box up. All right. So you see the color green. What are the images that you're seeing? Yeah, well, fresh meadows, leaves, forest, grass, life, vibrance. Oh, you're doing both. You're absolutely correct. You're responding to the images. So tell me, did you see this? And some of you healthy ones probably also saw a big fat broccoli. Okay. Now, when you see that some of the words that you use, whether it's grounded, whether it's resilience, whether it's like, peace, nature, calm, we know growth. Because if we don't have green, we actually don't have life. So when we think of that idea, you start to see that it's all caring, nurturing, growing, life giving. Now imagine a person that you work with, a leader. How do they lead? What is important to a leader who leads with green, right? What is important to them and what is going to be their struggle? Because personality always have two sides, the upside and the flip side. So you'll find they'll build the relationships and maintain them well. They'll be caring and nurturing, but they really struggle to give feedback. They might be sometimes too kind, too trusting, too easily taken in. Okay, ready for the next one? You know the drill. Red color. What do you see? Let's hear it in the chat box. Yeah, oh, wow, wow, wow. That's absolute. Ooh, this one's coming hard and fast. Strength, passion, boldness, fire, direct. Okay, that came very naturally, right? There's a popular one. So I'm imagining, Vivek said, candor. Well, yeah, blunt candor, I guess. Yeah, authority. Now, I'm imagining some of these images that you saw included this, right? And they are all about creating something. So here are some of the descriptors that you people have already covered, some of them, or at least some flavor of this. So if we were to have somebody who leads with that, I can already see you painting a picture, right? The kind of leader this would be, the kind of advantages they will bring in this style, but some of the challenges that they'll also be carrying, right? Okay. So upside, flip side, let's have a look. Obviously, they'll be driven towards influence and achievement. They will hold and expect people high expectations, but they can also become competitive. They will foster internal competitiveness. They will also be scary and intimidating. That makes sense? Okay. So I'm going to stop share because put a thumbs up if you resonated with that model. The red one is easy to go with. I saw like, most of you. So yeah, absolutely. Right. It came like a natural one. Good. So it's kind of making sense. Fantastic. Let's keep going. All right. Ready for the next one? Okay. What are some of the images that are coming to you? Yeah. See, now everyone's getting the drill. They're coming in quick. Sky, calm, cool, collected, cool, calm, ocean, water, clarity, and of course, everything that goes. Yes, Vivek, that's a nice one. They do try to bring that equanimity into it. Or at least the surface is very calm. We don't know what's going on below that. So here we go. All right. Mm. And that's an important one. I mean, like, just because we can't see the flutter inside, we see that calmness on the top. So I imagine all this made sense to you, right? That's the blue that you saw. And isn't it almost fantastic how easy it is, how you're seeing that slide before I pop it open? Because it's an archetype structure. And that's what we mean about intuitiveness that Lumina banks on. Again, no surprises over here. These were the words that you were thinking of. So a person like that would be very structured, organized. They like to deal with information. They prefer predictability and compliance and some of the challenges that other people might find them rigid and very, very difficult. Now, let me do an additional quiz over here. We talked about 4 colors, right? And blue are very structured and organized and very, very can come across as rigid. Which color do you think will find this most irritating? Who are the ones who will find the blues more rigid and stick in the muds? Which color? Guess. You know what? Because the yellows are quite unstructured, free flowing, they are probably going to find that a bit of a challenge. Anyway, let's continue with the colors. So now I have to put a disclaimer out there. Obviously, we don't have tests for these people. They are just characters, and Lumina is a highly science-based organization. So I'm by no means like, claiming that we have science on this, but this is more for you to get a theme of it. You know who this character is. What color do you attribute to this person? Let's hear it in the chat box. What color would you attribute to this character? Of the 4 colors, what are you likely to see here? White, black. Okay. Gray and white. No, we are talking about the 4 colors. Come on, people. Yeah. Why blue? Because it's a lot about details. There was that quotation from Shakespeare. He said, I don't care which is the 9th planet or 8th planet by that time, because they hadn't discovered 9 in his time. He said, but I can identify between 13 different bicycle tracks they use in the UK. So he was all about detail. Absolutely. Blues have it. Okay, ready for the next one? This gentleman, what color do we attribute over here? Oh, I think we've got a unanimous feedback over here. This one should be easy. No surprises. Yep. Red, because A, he gets the job done in his own way, right? It's brutal and blunt, and the outcome is achieved. This is one person who certainly wasn't waiting around for the popularity win. Over here, again, I can see fingers going to the keyboard straight away. So as you can see, we already have a sense of how we are doing this, because it is very much the archetype by which we identify and relate to people. So yes, I'll give it. It is the Greens, they have it. But we do know that we all have all colors. All of us have all colors. And we may lead sometimes with 1, which means we might score very high on 1 and 3 low, but we've seen all kind of ranges. So I'm going to invite you to say, tell me, what are the 2 colors you would attribute to this very, very unique and unusual leader? What do you think he did well? What was he known for?
Question meanwhile.
Say that again, Nalina.
Yeah. So we alluded red to also getting things right, but isn't Mother Teresa part of it? Isn't that also red because she's all heart?
Yeah. So we are putting green as heart.
Acha,
right?
green as heart. Acha, yeah.
But you're right. I mean, if you were to contribute, if I was to say what's the second color for Mother Teresa, I would probably say to give love at that industrial scale, you probably needed a lot of blue also.
Right.
Over here, we have a leader who was obsessed with precision and was known for changing the way anything was done. He was probably the only one in the business to say the customer doesn't know what they want, right? He also invited John Scully to come and say, hey, how long do you want to sell sugared water? Why don't you come with me and put a ding in the universe? So, unlike the other IT giant that we compare him with, he wasn't that caught up with money. He understood money. He's built a company that was always very, very cash rich. Their margins were huge. Apple margins are massive. But that's because they built a brand too. But do you know what? That Steve Jobs sold most of his shares when he set up Next Computers, which crashed. And of course, there was always the joke. He said, had I any idea where Apple shares were going to go, I would have sold most of my stock. So for him, more than the money, more than the monopoly, it was innovativeness. It was changing the way people lived through his tools. That was criteria. So, and of course, they kicked him out of Apple itself, his own company, because he became obsessive about trying to create a one-button product. Anyhow, so like I said, we don't have the scores and we can debate on different colors, but a very rare combination of this extreme creativity with this total precision, is something that a lot of people tend to say this. Okay, I'm going to continue the quiz because you seem to be pretty good at it. These are usually slides I might jump past. I'm going to pop up 4 descriptors and then let's see if you can align them. So, how they get things done through others. A uses praise and recognition. B demands a lot from other people, expects clear and progress. C expects high reliability, perfection. And the D criteria connects with people at a personal level. Now, to make your job easy, I'm going to give you 2 more hints. It's the same column, okay? So
Yeah.
A's also have a way in which they use their body language, right? A will use a lot of arm waving, B will use a lot of firm handshake, direct eye contact. So A is a color, B is a color, C is a color, D is a color. Let me give you one more hint. The way they work, their workspace, the C's, very methodical, functional, clean, very clean. And if you go to the office of the D's, their workspace, chances are full of friends and family photograph, informal, friendly, easygoing. So, which alphabet is which color?
Oh.
What is A? A is a yellow. Someone got that. Yeah. B is red. Very good. C is blue and D is green. Okay, Vivek, I think you've hit all of them. Excellent. All right. So the archetype, which in Lumina, most of our practitioners will say that, well, this is the lowest part of the information. But if you're going to be introducing Lumina to a group that doesn't have reports or whatever, this is a great fun way to do it. And it's all available. So I find that people who are familiar with DISC, social styles, KF4D, HBDI, personalysis, they can bring all of that knowledge into Lumina effortlessly. And we remind people, so you don't have your reports, but normally before reports, I remind people, I also want to remind you generally that we all have a little bit of each color. And the idea behind psychometrics is not for you to change your personality, because no matter what you do, you're always going to have upside, flip side. But remember that you can always choose behaviors. And also remember, there's no color or personality that is necessarily better than others because each one brings its own gifts and qualities. We human beings are capable of reading others. You just demonstrate it. You can pick up from people's the way they organize their workspace or interact with people or carry themselves. You can pretty much attribute a basic working style. So whilst Lumina, the 4-color model, is the lowest resolution piece of data, it's still useful because that's how people look at you when they first meet you. All right. It's always fun to point the finger somewhere else. Let's turn the mirror on you. What is your style? Okay. So, okay. Again, like I said, this is your best guesstimate confined to how much you think you know yourself. And one of the things that I say when I'm running the Lumina workshop, when people are getting qualified, I said, you really want to get value? Then consider that you don't know everything about yourself. Okay. All right. Quick primer. I'm going to give you just quick reminders. I know you went through that and you found it natural, but here are some things. Okay. So just a quick look. I know you can read, so I won't read that out to you, but the 4 colors, here's a quick description. Now let's go. I've got 2 clusters over here. Each cluster represents a set of questions aimed at a particular color. Cluster A is which color? Cluster B is which color? Some of you already picked it, I can see. So cluster A is what color? Green and yellow. See that? Yes. Nitul, I also saw it. Nitul, yeah. Yeah. A is green. Absolutely, Meghna. You got that. What's B? And what I'd also like you to do while you're thinking that, so you can see that at least at the, like, you're already beginning to kind of play with the Lumina story for at the basic level. What I'd like you to think about is which color do you associate with? Of course, okay, so Vivek's already got his colors identified. Okay, let's go to the next one. Cluster C and D, what colors do you see now?
Now I.
C is what? What color?
Green.
So people have advised C is red. So that leaves D very clearly as the blue, right? And what you want to do now that you've seen these 4 sets of questions and kind of probably try to answer them, identify for yourself your primary color. It's possible that you got 2 compelling colors that's equal. That's fine. I mean, for the purpose of the exercise, I'd like you to think of the color that you think you lead with. Some of you already have your sparks, okay? So you know your color. Priya, what was yours?
Blue and red for me.
You were a blue and red. Okay. Okay. You already know that. But okay, but others who don't have a spark can make the best guess. All right. Knowing your color, it's good to know that how do you lead based on your color. Okay. So your color determines what is your primary motivator, what is your style. Hopefully you're beginning to resonate with that already. And therefore, what is it that you're hoping to achieve for yourself? What is the outcome that you're looking for? So leading with green, you're looking for the connection. You're looking for vision. You're open to getting variety and creativity. Now, naturally, each color creates its own need. So if these are the needs that we are looking for, a chance to pioneer or a chance to influence others, that's what our leadership style becomes. And we are using this bit of information. That's how we are using it. Now, obviously, if we have a certain need and it remains unmet, certain situations can cause external triggers. So I want you to look closely at this. Okay, you know your color now, you know what you're seeking, but for each of your colors, you might find that if this happens, then you might find yourself highly frustrated and agitated. I'm going to stop share for a second. I'm assuming you've seen it. And I just want to see that if you resonated with that. Just give me a thumbs up if you could relate to it. I know it's kind of distant. You don't have your report. It's your best guess. But can you begin to see it's making sense? So just pop me a thumbs up so I know that we are working. Thanks, Jeff. All right. Okay. Thanks, Vivek. I see that. Nalina. Yeah, perfect. Either I can see it or you can pop it. Yep. Sudha, thank you. So all I'm trying to bring to your attention is that when your needs are not getting met, then what are the things that's going to create a frustration? And that has a lot to do with, your natural style getting sort of, out of whack. Okay. Back to the shares. Okay. Now, this will have some impact on you. So naturally, when your needs are not met, you're frustrated. It's going to show up in some ways because it's going to put you under stress. And when we are under stress, we tend to overextend. Now, we may use different coping mechanisms. And some of us, based on a color, right? And this is not all exhaustive, but broadly speaking, here are some of the strategies some people will resort to just to manage this dissonance. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was relatable. You can start to see why you go through. We can pick up the pattern. We know what the needs are. We know what kind of things can feel like unmet needs. We know how we get into stress. And then when we're under stress, we try to cope with the situation. And these are some of the behaviors which we tend to overextend to try and find our own sense of equanimity. Okay. And that takes us to the story of resilience. Hopefully, some of you already know Viktor Frankl's work, a Holocaust survivor who basically said that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in the bigger the space, the more the freedom. And there are some things that we have no space. They happen and they trigger us off. But if you think back in your own past, you might find there were things that used to trigger you so easily, but they no longer do. So that means we do have the resources to also overcome the triggers that we experience. You know, all I can say though is that, trying to sort these things on your own is a bit of a pipe dream. I guess, which is why people like us who are coaches and trainers are in the business, right? So, because the head that creates the problem really can't solve it. Okay, with that, the whole idea with psychometrics, of course, for in terms of personal development is to understand that what is my driving strength, what are some of my gaps, what are some of my triggers, and what are some of the triggers that I'm having absolutely no grip on. Because when I am triggered, I act in certain way. I may start to act like I want to win at all costs. I don't think I'm doing that, but that's how others experience me. And that bad reputation, the blind spot, is what leads to the undoing of many, many careers. Well, hopefully you found that useful. Let's jump forward a little bit. I'm going to talk about 8 aspects. Now, for those of you who are familiar with MBTI, this is the Jungian framework, right? I'm going to pause over here. I imagine a lot of people use MBTI. So you can already see the extrovert, introvert, the E and the I easily. I mean, it's there because Lumina, Stuart Desson, the founder of Lumina, absolutely has sort of really, really looks up to Carl Jung and his work, and therefore doing a rare combination of using the Big Five research, which is what Lumina is built on, but also mapping it to the Jung framework. But given that the Lumina research is a trait model, they use this information for paradoxes. So you can see in this example, this person has both extroverted and introverted scores. They're also demonstrating high inspiration driven and high discipline driven. I'm not sure if everybody knows MBTI, but for those who, I'll just quickly touch on it. E and I, you can see over here. This is the intuitive, big picture, and this is the sensing. Can you guess the others? What do you call people focus? What do you call outcome focus? What do you call inspiration driven, discipline driven? One is a thinking, one is a feeling, one is a judging, one is a perceiving. I wonder if you can guess some of those. Yeah, yeah, Meghna. FNT is the feeling thinking. Absolutely. Yep. And judging, perceiving is, of course, inspiration driven and discipline driven. Now, hopefully the language is intuitive. You can begin to make sense of what it means if somebody's chasing outcomes versus one who is like very pragmatic, practical, and really down to earth in terms of looking for practical details. I can't always do this, but I have people who'll come and find different things in the Lumina frameworks. Like somebody was drawing parallels from Belbin. For some of you use Belbin, you might say there are 9 different roles that people play in a team. I don't know Belbin that well. I mean, I've been part of one activity somewhere, but somebody kind of mirrored to me that a lot of things that are described over there also get covered over here. I think that person was having to deal with the problem of trying to work with multiple reports to express the team part and the individual part. And he said, look, I can use this in the team context. Also, how you lead. I mean, let me give you some examples of leading. If you're high on the big picture thinking, you will lead from a visionary style. You will look for pioneering creative ideas. So you're a visionary leader. You write the strategies. If you're an extroverted person, high on the extroversion, you will lead with a very, very social style. You're a social leader. You move the crowds. If you're an outcome individual, you're going to be a result leader. If you're discipline driven, you're going to be a process leader. If you're down to earth, you're going to be a knowledge leader. If you're introverted, you're going to be a reflective leader. If you're people focused, you're going to be a people leader. That means you'll build individual relationship. Inspiration driven, you're going to bring idea leadership. So on and so forth. So we find using the Lumina framework for multiple interpretations. Hopefully that made sense. I know we went very fast, but hopefully it was intuitive enough. Here's a question for you. I'm not going to pause very long for you to do it. Whether or not you have a natural high score, we're always having to lean to a certain part of our personality. Remember, we all have a little bit of each color in each aspect. And sometimes due to circumstances, we end up having to lean on one side of ourselves. So which one have you used most in the 6 months? In the last 6 months, I have to say, I personally have been pushing myself to use a lot of the outcome focus because we've tried to put a lot more workshops on the ground. And I have a low score naturally. And of course, when I'm using an aspect that's not natural to me, it's been very exhausting. We had to move homes, then we had to, organize a whole bunch of things over here. At work also, we were trying to put new workshops out there. I had to rely a lot on outcome focus, which wasn't my natural score. And now I'm dreading the next 6 months because the kind of plan that me and the team have put together are going to require for me the next 6 months to really, really dial up the discipline driven. If there's anything I have lower than my outcome focus, it's discipline driven. So I think there's going to be the only way I'll get it done is put a couple of bottle of vodka down every week, or maybe have a cat like Priya. Cats always energize you. So if you're okay, go to the chat box, kind of reflect over it. What is it which aspect you're going to really have to use in the next 6 months or the 1 year based on the plans and goals you have for yourself and your practice? What is required of you? So Meghna saying next 6 months is going to be highly discipline driven. And I think, Meghna, what I remember from you, as it is, you're pretty discipline driven. Divya saying we'll be using a lot more extroverted discipline. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, Nupur, did you join us later? Okay. Welcome. Welcome, Nupur. Not bad. Join in late and you're already running. That's the spirit. That's exactly what we need. Okay. I think it's Avantika who talked a little bit about paradox. I can touch on it a little bit if you like. Look, and let's see if I have a slide on paradox. Okay, I do have a slide on paradox. So paradoxes can create flip-flop. One of the most popular paradoxes that we see at workplace is people have high scores on outcome focus and people focus. And what we find over here is that the balance that's going out is really about the mismatch between results and relationships. Because you're both and you push people towards results, you'll find people kind of get stressed and then you don't like being that person. But if you let people cut them too much slack, you find that you're not getting the results that you want and then you feel cheated, right? So what tends to happen, if I was to like paint a story, is that if you're a result and a relate, because you can have opposite sides. That's not the problem. The problem is when you're stuck in the wrong side of things in a situation. So if you're an outcome and a people-focused paradoxed individual, if your report shows that you got high scores on both, when you start a partnership, your mindset is to trust other people, right? You will accord them because you think that the outcome is given. I'm putting my effort for outcome. I'm sure you will. I mean, how else do people work? And you try to give the extra trust and understanding. And what tends to happen is that when the other person doesn't show up, maybe they are not outcome focused. Maybe their idea of outcome is not as exacting as yours. So then you get frustrated. Then you get frustrated and you find it difficult to hold them accountable because you're still in that green place, right? You still want to be nice. You still want to, because, trusting people comes naturally to you. So when you do that, then you find that you've had to carry somebody else's load. And come the next time and you find a similar experience. Now your honeymoon period is beginning to evaporate very fast. You don't like it, but you swing the big stick. Then other people get surprised because you've been so nice and accommodating all along. But you don't want to turn into that rescuer anymore. So, and what you're feeling, I mean, if you were to do it one more time, help them again and still be disappointed, then you start to get a little bit, skeptical and distrusting. Because after all, results matter to you too. So that's what the story plays out. I find a lot of people, when I ask them, they've got outcome, people focus. I said, do you experience it? Yeah. He said, I feel like people take advantage of me. I give trust and then people don't live up to the expectations. So what's the coaching tip? Well, plan out the roles and responsibilities, okay? And also discuss consequences. And in the beginning, you can do that. In personal life, we call it setting boundaries. At workplace, it's called a contract. Now, whatever your high score, and I want to pause for a second, I want you to look at these 8 aspects. You immediately know the 1 or 2 big ones. Like I saw Divya very instinctively pick up 3 that she needs to use the next 6 months. Okay. Many of you can see that you had to use a certain aspect last 6 months. And maybe it wasn't your natural score. I mean, my outcome focused discipline, I've got nothing in the southern hemisphere, right? So we all bring a gift. If you're part of a team, no matter what your high score is, you bring a gift. And therefore, every aspect brings its own contribution. It's possible that a team may not always need every aspect. It's also, no matter how much you celebrate diversity, it's not like diversity is strength all the time. You're going to manage diversity, you're going to need rules, because it is the very opposite who complete you can, for very good reason, also kill you. So because you're going to frustrate them. All right. I'm going to pause over here before I switch to just show you a little bit about our performance and see if anyone's got any question. I'm not watching the chat box. Mac, is there anything there? Sonam, is anybody got a question right now? I'm pausing. Were you able to relate to this framework? Report or no report is working? Yes? Double thumbs up? Very nice. Okay, well, 1 thumbs up if you're holding a cup of coffee in the other. But yeah. Okay, lovely. Okay, let's keep going. All right, give me a second. Now, I want to take you into qualities, but I also want to start borrowing something from another report in the Luminous table called the Luminous Select, which aggregates the personalities, qualities into functional competencies. So, since you know the archetype, and now that you've looked at the aspect, there are 4 very distinct driving energies through which people work. Is that making sense? So if you look at the pioneering part, you can see the people who are naturally more conceptual, imaginative, radical, sociable, etc., etc. People who are strong on qualities like observing, cautious, evidence-based, practical, reliable, that cut will show delivery. And it covers the aspect called down to earth. So just showing you that this data, by now, hopefully everybody knows that how personality impacts behaviors and therefore behaviors impact your performance, or it's all very interlinked. We are going to now jump to what we call the quality view. So that circle you saw outside where I showed you the aspects, now because you've been comfortable as well, it's extroverted. Who's extroverted? What makes extroversion? Let me talk about extroversion for a minute, because I think we have a default understanding of extroversion. Vertus, which means to turn, is where you're turning to get your energy. Extroverted means that you're turning outside to get energy from other people, whereas the introverted are turning internally, inwards, to get their energy, right? Now, many times we tend to think a default model of extroversion is anybody who's extroverted must be sociable. That's not the case. I'm highly demonstrative. I have a tough time explaining to people that internally I'm more private and introverted. But because when I'm in front of people, I tend to be highly expressive and emotive. So people mistake that for sociability. But it is extroverted because after all, I am speaking to people. Then there are people who takes charge. You know, the parent who's always volunteering at school events, the person who'll always volunteer at the the RWA, right? No, Priya, I'm not thinking of you, but you did run to organize an event. Okay. Now, so there are people who are sociable, who are outgoing and get energy from meeting people, right? The takes charge is that uncle who will uninvited take charge of the booze bus and the traffic management at a wedding party, right? So we have these characters and we mistake them for sociability. But all I'm trying to say to you, there are 3 different distinct components that are contributing to your extroversion. You might have all 3 or you might just have the one. And if you're low on all of them, well, definitely, then you're leaning towards the introversion. In Lumina, because it's a trait model, it's not either or, you can have both. And you can be low on both. Okay. So 24 qualities. I'm going to leave that up for a second. Okay. Because I want you to see, like the rest of Lumina, is this intuitively making sense to you? So I'm going to pause for a second, let you scan through those 24 words and put in the chat box if you want me to give definition of any of those words. Anything that you want me to explain. And if you're finding that most words are making sense because Lumina is written that way, Stuart Desson is highly conscious that even English is spoken in multiple ways. In our own country, I mean, like how many people speak English in a different flavor? So it's been very, very language neutralized. Mm, it's not perfect. I mean, sometimes people get confused. They'll say, oh, flexible. I'm very flexible with other people. And that's when I have to remind them, flexible means the way you approach task. If you're flexible with other people, you're accommodating towards other people's needs. So there might be that little distinct, but otherwise, it's that. So if you've hopefully, because I didn't see any question, did I miss anything? No, there was no question, right? Everybody, so I'm assuming you pretty much got what each of these words means. What I want to invite you is to identify for yourself the one or two qualities that you think you lead with. In fact, Mac, I don't know. I mean, does everybody know how to annotate? If you hover your uh, cursor around, you will be able to come and see a little like a pencil logo which says annotate. And then can you see that? And maybe you can then just put, using that letter T, when you annotate, you can put like mine is here. And maybe you can put your name near the quality. Are you able to do that? I mean, if not, it's okay. But so if you move your cursor around, you'll get in that black toolbox annotate. You'll drop a whole list with a T written over there, which will give you the text option, and you can, yeah, Snehal, that's right. But you're using the line. If you use the T, let's say T, it'll give you text typing ability. Priya, I think you were quick on that one. Yours is purposeful.
I accidentally double annotated and I can't remove the annotation.
Don't worry about it. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'll do it in a second. So who's got the heart over there on the intimate? Hang on.
That's me. Love from Jakarta.
Oh, okay, good one. Vivek's got that. Okay. I'm going to give another 10 seconds for anybody else who's typing. But whether you're just struggling too much, then doesn't matter. Just know what your quality is. And you know now that quality, how it's creating that aspect for you, right? I mean, if you're strong on that quality, it's creating that aspect for you. Now, remember one thing, Lumina distinctly measures the three different persona of your personality. So whilst these 24 qualities talk about the big five factor. So those you're familiar with, PAPI, Caliper, Workplace, Big Five, there's so many of them. So you know the big five tools and you kind of can relate to that. But those of you who work with Hogan or Personalysis and many other tools also have like some version of different parts of persona. You can also see that there is the internal motivation. In Lumina, we call it the underlying personality. Then there's the exhibited behaviors, which we call everyday. And then finally, as a stress response, we have what we call overextension of behaviors. So, if I was to say that if stress gets the best of you and under pressure, if you overdo, because there's absolutely no doubt that the fact that you see yourself high on a particular quality lends itself to some of the strengths that you have. And I'll bet you right now, if you were to scan this 24 qualities, you'll also find some of the qualities that you're low on. And the qualities that you're low on have been part of the feedback that you've been getting for a long time. But it's not easy to change, overcome personality. So maybe you'll be disciplined, you'll try it, but the feedback that you're getting is probably also consistent. But what happens if it runs away from you? What happens if you overdo things, right? So that same quality, now you see us change in flavor. So when you tend to overextend yourself, like I scored radical, but sometimes I'm just changing things for out of sheer boredom, not having fun doing it. I'm just getting restless and variety seeking. Divya might find that her extroversion might take her sometimes to be can't be alone, might lead to different outcomes, right? But and Shruti, who's always empathetic and giving, may find herself emotionally stretched sometimes. So do you see how that makes sense? That if that quality, which is big for you, tends to run away from you, it will show up in what you might call an unproductive manner. Okay, let's see if I'm going to just clear everything over here. Hopefully clear all drawings. There we go. All right. So hopefully you had fun with that. Oh, I don't know how to get rid of this annotate now. Okay. All right. Okay, that was fun. Is that beginning to make sense now? So I just to give you a refresher. Actually, in Lumina, we start from the 24 qualities, base up, right? Because when we calculate the interpretation of 24 quality score, you're going to be astounded at how accurate this is. Okay, I'm saying that never can sound authentic when you say all these things as a distributor. But we were in a workshop and repeatedly workshop after workshop, you ask people to read the summary, a 2-page summary, 3-page summary that you get. We ask people, put your hand up if there's a disagreement. No, it's, I don't know if I remember, I think Turan and Priya who've been in the workshops, you would have seen how accurately that summary comes across. And it's just almost shocking that how is it that they are able to finish the thoughts that you may not have even surfaced to people. How do they do that? And that's where some of the coaches become insecure because they say, what am I going to do? Well, you know what? You don't have to do anything. That guy in front of you, not only can they read English, they're probably smarter than you because they can afford you, okay, as a coach. And in their heart of heart, they also have what the answer to what they need to do. They just need your help to defog their situation. So just don't get attached to the outcome. It's their journey. Your job is here to sort of walk them through. And that's why I say I'm a strong believer that it is the coach that is more important. I mean, I kind of learned that when I used to be a waiter for a very long time, just trying to make my earnings to pay my MBA through. And I learned the idea that as much as the food, it's the love with which you serve the food that matters, right? Which is why my mommy's food is always something special. so, but I also believe that whilst the facilitator and the coach is more significant, because after all the other thing, the personality, which is what we sell, is just data. A good personality report can make a good coach great because it tightens the coaching contract, it accelerates the outcome, it builds the rapport, it gives autonomy to the coach. And if it's an interpreted report where your coaching client is not sitting waiting for your sermonizing because they can't read anything, here's a report that everything's written, they can contest you. So that's what I'm saying. So for those of you who haven't seen a Lumina, I'm going to ask Mehak if she can in the chat box put a sample so you can download it and have a look at it later and just see how intuitive it is. Okay. So if there's no questions, I'll get off the soapbox, go back to the share, and let's show you what I've got and some more slides. We got another about 20 minutes, so let's see if I can move a little bit quickly and leave time for questions. A big question that comes in, are you a different person outside work? Well, you know what? Unless you got a pathological condition, all of us are the same person. We're just adapting behaviors. We know the nastiest of bosses who are shouting at their subordinates. If a client calls or a cop shows up, they know how to change their tune, right? So when we start to think of this idea of 3 persona, a good way to look at it is, okay, what is it that I value in a relationship? So hold for a second. And you'll be surprised. Sometimes this requires a bit of thinking. Instinctively, I may repel things that are non-negotiable, but I may not have articulated the words. So pause for a minute and say, do I know what I value in a relationship most? Think of the relationship that matters the most and see what that party brings to you. And it is that which you seek, and that you seek because that's what you give. Then What is my demonstrated strength? A strength that you believe in, but others can see it. And then how do I react when I'm under stress? So there are three distinct parts of your personality. And it is the combination of all that makes the person that you are. But the identity is something that you feel others may or may not see. Sometimes you may not even have a lucid enough understanding and verbiage for it. Reputation is built on what you do, but your blind spot is something that you're missing. That leads to your notoriety. A reputation, that's an unwanted one many times. But if we can map all of that, then it just makes our life so much easier. So in Lumina, when we look at our score, we see the underlying everyday overextended, written, spelled out, and at all levels, at the color level, at the aspect level, at the quality level. And this is the mobile app. So Lumina's mobile app, this is my app has changed a little bit. This was still during the COVID days. I think I've been lazy about the slide, truth be told. But you can notice that under the three circumstances, underlying on the left, everyday in the middle, overextended. So on the left is what my fuel is, my underlying. In the middle is what people see, right? Like the car. And overextended is when things go out of control a little bit. And how my mandala is dancing. The sad news is that even under pressure, there's very little discipline and outcome that I'm able to exhibit. So that's me. Now, I don't have to do everything on my own. I can always lean on to a colleague of mine. Again, this is Mehek's old graph. So, but again, for the sense of demonstration, I can scan Mehek's report onto my mobile app. So we can see on the left, our shared underline. What is it that we both value? What are our common values? What is it that we can bring to each other in terms of complementarity of skills every day? And what are some of the potential rupture points for both of us? Where is it that we may go out of control? So you can get so much data. And our workshops with leaders, we normally get people to pair up. If it's a team that is a little bit under stress, we find out from HR and our sponsor who are the people who need to be talking to each other. And we create situation in the workshop for people to exchange, scan each other's code and talk to each other. I want to show you something that's very popular with the practitioners. Most of you are facilitators, trainers, and many of you do some very specific kind of team coaching. What if you could get the total dynamic, the whole psychological diversity and dynamic of a team? You know, it's not the best talent we know for a fact that brings the team successful. It is how well the team manages its natural friction. In Lumina, we have something called the team viewer. We dump all of these reports into one system called the team viewer, and we got a red-blue team. So I'm going to just show you a couple of things over here. I'm going to try and move quickly because, so this team, this is what they look like. And the big circle over here is the average, right? And if we were to look at the three persona view, you can see how this is moving around. The average is moving from outcome focus in the underlying to discipline driven every day. And then as this absolute, micromanagement under pressure. So we are seeing that it's not one consistent culture either, right? They may be claiming one culture. Okay. But we see the movement in the mandala, which indicates what's going on. We create an exhaustive team profile using, this is system generated in Lumina. But then we create a whole profile around this to talk to people. And then we measure the scores and then we share them. So in this team story, of course, the names are scrubbed out, but this team was seen as successful largely because they always delivered. And because even though underlying people focus is low, every day their behavior is very people focused. Now you might turn around and say, well, looks like they don't really much care about the people, but they end up being people pleasers. You know what? You won't be wrong. So they are conflict avoidant. Now, because of that, to their stakeholders and customers, they are nice people. People like them. They get along with them. And then when we show them their story, we get them to go there, get them to put it all together. Then we challenge them to go and create their own solution. Meaning then we ask them that, hey, as a team, what do you need to keep doing, stop doing, start doing? And then we create a lot of activities. Now, you guys are team coaches. You guys are all experienced. We don't need to tell you what you can do. You can add your bag of tricks, or we are happy to give them to you once you start working. Bear with me as I do something advertorial over here, okay? But I'm going to again pause for a second to make sure that I have your questions answered. If there's anything specific that I need to be answering. Any questions for me at this stage? Otherwise, I'm just going to go back and just take you through some of the things that you can do with the Spark. All right. So, like I said, this is slightly advertorial now. Now that you understood the framework, what does it mean to be a Lumina Spark practitioner as a luminary when you go to your clients? What are some of the advantages you're carrying? And I can tell you what the clients love. They love speed. The need for speed is just rising. Okay. So very, very quick. And the one question that we get asked a lot is how does a 15-minute test answer all those questions? And how does it get it so right? Well, it's good algorithm. It's not magic. But very intuitive UX. Like, you saw it for yourself today. It's so easy to play with. And then with support with mobile app and digital coach, you've got personality in your pocket, right? Then so much is about the participant engagement. What you could do as training, coaching didn't even exist 30 years ago, nor did positive psychology, right? But prior to that, you could pretty much like give people whatever kind of marching orders you did. But today, your participant is demanding, clever. It's possible you're a coach, but through Instagram and WhatsApp, they've learned more of this stuff. So you've got fairly sort of autonomy seeking, well-informed people who are also saying, well, I understand you're the expert. You're telling me this from my report, but I like to read it for myself. So customizable applications. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say you're running a work on EQ, a report on a workshop on emotional intelligence. My framework of emotional intelligence may be different from Nalina's or different from Meghna's. It's possible that I need more self-awareness, whereas Turan needs to have more other awareness, and Jeff might need to have a little bit more understanding of his empathy and motivation levels, right? So what we are looking for is something different. And you could apply this idea to everything. Leading teams, having difficult conversations, executive presence. So whatever workshop you're creating, a personality framework helps you to understand what is it that you need to invest your energy in. Okay. So, and of course, local access, price. Now the whole suite is available. So we got, Lumina Spark, and we got Select, we got Sales, we got Leader 360, we got Emotion. And the beauty part about Lumina is that you understood one framework, you can move from one to the other fairly seamlessly. There'll be like 4 domains of leader, there'll be 4 styles and 8 aspects of sales and all of that. So there's a lot of adjacency. So what are the applications that you're exploring? I keep reminding you, we sell psychometrics, but clients are looking for solutions, right? The product is fantastic, but clients don't care. They are not buying the product, they are buying you, which is why we may not always love you, but we will pretend to because we rely on this collaboration and work together. I also find that me and my team have learned so much, both as professionals, but more as human beings, by working closely with this community that is growing. We've got over 200 people like in India, and that's like really grown very fast, and now it's picking up pace. So many of our practitioners are collaborating on various things. There are practitioners who are certified on 1 or 2 tools, but they very quickly collaborate with others, but they never lose an opportunity. A guy certified in Spark will go and sell Lumina Sales, knowing fully well there's always somebody in the community they can partner with. So that's really, really rewarding for us because that's what we set out to do. Now, here are some of the things that trainers do. Lumina certified practitioners have access to a very big library of tools, but we have this whole mantra in the Lumina community in South Asia, ask Mac. And Mac's chances are that, will produce something for you if you need something. We want as much as possible for our practitioner partners to go and do what they do well. Engage the client and deliver like how. We will take care of the backend. And in Lumina, the reports can be customized. So the reports are like, kind of painted in your flavor, as in with your logo, your messaging, etc. So it's really that way, something that we are always working like a team. Okay, Spark Coach. Let me show you one framework. Those coaches will love this. All of you know Grow, right? If you've done coaching, you know the Grow model. So here's this is one of the many ways in which Lumina uses its existing framework for multiple, like, they have a culture model, they have a sales model. Here's the grow model. Articulate your goal. And step 2, what's the reality? That's a blue fact-driven factor. Then what are some of the options? It's all yellow. We have to spur your imagination. Then how willing are you? How committed are you to this goal? That's your red energy. And finally, don't do it alone. Who can help you? Right? So here's another example of like how you bring this conversation down. For those of you in the hiring space, assessment centers, hypo identification, competency mapping, you're doing that kind of work. Using the Lumina quality scores, we can produce what's called the Lumina Select report. Now, like you've seen already, and I hopefully that's not a tall claim at this stage, it's an intuitive language. Have a quick scan of these 16 competencies, for each of the color clusters, right? If you want to perform through influence, it makes sense that you have competencies like working under pressure, engaging, energizing, providing direction, purposeful argumentation. So you'll see that the colors are representing the energy. If you take a quick look, you'll find you don't really need the definition, do you? I mean, you can pretty much tell what this is all about. Can you see the difference between those two green colored competencies? One is called working together. The other one's called supporting others. Who's the coordinator? Who's great at working at customer care or nursing? You can pick up the differences even over there. So that's what I want you to do, that you don't have to be a Lumina expert to be able to understand the framework. Today, everybody wants digital solutions. Lumina Splash app, digital coach, and we have something called Journey to Composure, which is well, the NLP people love it, let's just say, right? So okay, what else do I have to show you? I'll make sure I leave a few minutes for some questions if you can. Yeah, so in Lumina, they've been, even if you never plan to get certified in Lumina, stay in touch with Lumina Learning. They're constantly running these workshops and they give all this material, the deck or whatever. And frankly speaking, you don't really need to be using Lumina reports to use some of that stuff. Here's a little example of a workshop they did recently. Yes, it's sort of hard to tell people to kind of comment on their overextensions or internal motivations, but people have some idea, right? You can use those frameworks. As a distributor, I want you to be certified in buying reports. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff available over there that while you're still thinking whether or not you want to be a luminary, you can use that stuff. Okay, so there's a whole lot of stuff that's available over there. Okay, quick touch. For those of you who are familiar with 4-box Jungian models, well, Lumina has got the 4-color archetype. So you'll be able to relate to it straight away. For those of you who recognize MBTI, the Jungian framework, easy to work with, right? For those of you who know the Big Five, well, it's Lumina is built on the Big Five. By the way, I should clarify, we built on the Big Five, but we don't use neuroticism. Neuroticism turned into emotions, but we can show the impact of stress through the 3 persona. I don't know how accurate this is, but a couple of people have said the fact that we use top 5, bottom 5 is kind of like the framework in Strength Finder. I think the 2 reports are very different. A lot of people use the idea of paradox. They say it's also available in Harrison. There's a lot of people who talk about the idea of Belbin. So what I'm trying to say to you, if you have access to multiple tools and the tools and tips, it's not like moving to Lumina, you're going to have to lose those. You can adapt a lot of those things over here, which is a big concern, right? Our systems, our workshops, our designs are formatted to certain tools sometimes. You're not going to lose any of that. That's the beauty here. All right. Who is moving most to Lumina? We notice a lot of people who are coming to Lumina, brand new people, because some people, I think, beginning to tell them, go for like the next gen kind of tool. But for existing users, what seems to easily make sense to a lot of people are the MBTI and the Hogan users. They tend to be the ones that are adopting Lumina a lot more. Okay. we have a community in South Asia which is growing. It's interactive. We've got like city groups now. This year we started to do a lot of social meetups, and like I said, I'm underlying introvert, so I was a bit surprised. Bangalore, in fact, is already within a period of 5 months planning its fourth get together. And it's been fantastic. I've got to say, it's just absolutely wonderful. We've done one each in Mumbai and Delhi. So we found, you know what, not everything has to be serious. We can start to meet a lot more. But then we started to meet a lot more. People said, you're very generous with giving decks and sample reports, but can't we just do it in a class? It's so much easier to learn. So I'm pleased to report that recently we ran our first Lumina Leader 360 session for our practitioners. 10 people showed up in Bangalore. We had a great time. And now on the 11th, we are running the first one in Mumbai, then in NCR. So not only is the certification workshop, we are now also turning public programming for our practitioner community. And we found that it's so intuitive that even the non-practitioner can come and enjoy it. So those are some of the things that we are trying to do. Again, this practitioner pricing, etc. We've got workshops coming up. We got, I'll request Mehak to put the dates down for the next 2 certifications. After all, we are here to try and sell you something, right? If we didn't try to sell you something, then what's the point of this webinar? So I'll ask Mehak to like put dates over here. We got a few more minutes. I'm going to pause over here, invite questions. And like I said, don't hold the questions back. The more direct the question, the best thing I can do to answer. Vivek, go, you're ready. Just go off
I
mute.
had one question. When you were looking at those 3 offerings, there was one thing which you said, hey, a lot of people from the NLP world are attracted to this. I'm very curious about what that is then.
All right. So if you can imagine a situation where you have a particular overextension, okay? In normal language, Vivek, tell me something. What is it that causes you a lot of stress that seems to hijack you a lot? If you're okay sharing, like for me, I
100%.
get
I'm
challenged.
happy to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I get hyper rational. I think this is definitely my overextended behavior, which is like, yeah, I get very, very hyper rational
Yeah. And in
when
Lumina
I am
language,
not centered.
we call it logical, a very rational, calculated approach. And these people, I'll tell you, the gift of the logical is that they're able to see very, very fast solutions very, very quickly. Do you want to know what the curse of the logical is? They attract fools. Okay. So they are always frustrated that why do I have to suffer fools? Actually, they get to commonsensical output so quickly, they expect the rest. And one of the things that you find hyperlogical people shouting, why don't people get it? I mean, right? Now, look, Vivek's smile gives it away. What tends to happen if you put a logical person under stress, they move into what we call argumentative. No logical person ever admitted to that. Okay. After all, most Indian think that being an argumentative Indian is a natural phenomenon. Yes, that is so, but there are logical Indians who tend to be more argumentative than others. And why is that happening? Because you're so married to your own argument and your own logic that you're not able to. So what happens to our overextended logical? You ask them, why are you getting argumentative? He said, I'm not getting argumentative at all. All I'm waiting is for this person to present me some working rational argument. But you have to remind them, but you're not listening right now, right? So that's the thing. Now, if you imagine the 24 qualities, in the past, whenever you've become agitated and become into that hyper logical, argumentative mode without quite recognizing it that way, something has also allowed you to calm down. Either it's the empathy of the other person, either it's the need for collaboration, either it's. So, do you see that something has always happened in the past that's allowed you to calm down? Do you recall what quality, doesn't have to be a Lumina language, that allows you to finally calm down?
I think maybe connecting. So what I found very helpful for myself in navigating this is NVC, when not connecting with thoughts, but instead moving to the level of feelings and needs. Not just what I'm feeling and needing, but also what the other person is feeling and needing.
Exactly. So logical, that's coming from the red aspect of outcome focus. You're actually going across to the other side to the people focus and trying to dial up your accommodation. Trying to say, let me put my need aside. Let me see what is it that they need. You might be using collaborative, that I don't want to spoil the relationship for the sake of an argument. After all, what am I looking for? Is there a win-win that I can create? Correct? You might also get empathetic, where you might say, what is making this person trigger like that? Maybe they don't have access to this knowledge and resources. Maybe I'm advantaged in some way. So you're now using up other qualities. But that is settling your reactive state. Now, if you know that you're hyperlogical, and next time that you know that when people come and challenge you with their lack of rationality or whatever, what can you do as an anticipation so that you don't get into that elevated state?
The other thing I've started doing a lot, which has also been very effective, is not try to find a shared reality where it's okay for us to live in different worlds sometimes. But I think I used to find myself in a place where the need for a shared reality was very important. And I realized that that would sometimes cause a lot of unnecessary frustration, or almost like even I tend to be very curious and courageous, but sometimes I find myself dragging people where they're not interested in being either curious or courageous. So just let be. Pick battles wisely.
Correct. But what is your motivation to pick battles wisely? There's a reason you're picking battles wisely.
Right. I think connecting with what is the deeper purpose here. I am not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm looking to learn from what they have and update my priors if it's going to help advance my situation. But otherwise, it is their journey. It is none of my business to kind of drag them along on my journey if they are not especially interested.
Excellent. So you've either moved to something else outside of that green, first to sort of calm down and understand where they're coming from. And second is take the attention back to what's in it for me. How do I learn? Right? There is no outcome over here. But it's easy to set your ego aside when you anticipate it. What's happened over here? Let me show you. Okay. So over here, you were in an overextended state of argumentative, right? And what you then did is move to the other side. Now, in Lumina, either I'll have a small card or a coaster and I'll put your finger on it. I will invoke it. I will say, Vivek, describe to me what is your body going through when you're in an argumentative state. I'm going to simulate back the entire experience. I will ask you to talk about the self-talk, right? I'll put you into the state. And then once I've made you understand what impact it's having, I'll move you, I'll detach you from this state. I'll move you away from this mat where you're physically standing. It's a 6-foot mat that you're standing on. I'll make you take a few steps back, do a few cleansing breath, and then say, all right, this 24 qualities, okay? Which is the one that can help you? At that point, I'll make you actually literally walk to the one, say, here, let me come here. I'm going to accommodate, see where they're coming from. Now, this has only mitigated your current state. What I want you to learn is to build the equipment to be able to deal with it in future, because if it's happened once, it's going to happen again. And the next time you're going to do a couple of things. You're going to say, you know what? I'm going to just be observing. I'm not going to react. I'm not going to respond, because what is my motivation? I'm going to learn from the situation. If I am able to detach from what I know, I might possibly expand my perspective. Second thing is, there is no win-lose over here. So I'm not picking it as a battle. There's no competitive. So I'm going to stick in somewhere in this area, perhaps. So I'm going to go collaborative and observing, and then I'll get you to that state, and I'll tell you, how do you see when your Mercury starts to rise? How are you going to deal with it? So this is one of the things that some people do. Listen, I'm not an NLP expert, but there's a whole bunch of luminaries who are NLP users. They keep bringing up all of this stuff. But I know Journey to Composure is something that does it. I'm going to pause and move to the other question. Avantika, am I seeing you on screen at all, or no?
Hi,
No.
sorry, I'm actually moving about, so I can't be on screen today.
No worries. No worries.
I have a question, Rahul, which is essentially this. So, when we talk about stressors and we talk about overextending, sometimes, you're under pressure because, well, you have to deliver on outcomes, or it could be a stressor situation with a person at home or outside in a professional environment. Does it mean that uh, when I'm overextending, different facets of the wheel will show up for different situations that I'm under stress?
Yes. Yes. So a quick, and I hopefully have understood you right. The answer is just like we have multiple high scores on our qualities, like even like all of us will have several scores that are high, several scores that are low. Similarly, we'll have more than one overextension. Most of our pain is caused by our top five high scores, top bottom five low scores, and top five overextensions. That's usually our narrative of life. I do five things well, I struggle with five things, and I do five things really badly. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, second part is circumstances. I'll give you a simple example. I met a person who overextended. She became extremely argumentative and seeking conflict. Like these are words from Lumina's overextension, right? But on the other hand, she was also highly like collaborative and accommodating. In fact, she overextended. She became consensus seeking and acquiescing and people pleasing. So she had both sides. And when I asked her, when does this show up? She said, when I'm sitting in a meeting with my seniors, and it turned out that her father was also owner of the business when she first started. She said, I'm very quiet, I'm highly observing. In fact, I become almost detached. I'm very accommodating. When I'm with my team, when I'm under pressure, I become more flared up. So, so you might be exhibiting different sides of your overextensions in different situations. You're right. That can happen. That happens, in fact.
Yeah. Thank you. This is very helpful. Yeah.
Now, remember something, overextensions are a natural part. In fact, if to have no overextension also can make you a little bit boring. You're about as exciting as hospital food. So there is good to have a little bit of spice in you, right? So, and it is when it runs away from you. See, life is simple. Do more of what you enjoy. Avoid what and who you don't like, right? And acknowledge an overextension when it's troubling you, rather than going to denial and just protecting yourself. It is actually easier said than done, but that's pretty much what it is. Lumina gives you a very deep like map for yourself. Absolutely, and as much as possible, the man said it. Take the middle path. So there you go. I want to pause again. I'm mindful of the time. We are kind of getting there, but there's any other question, happy to answer. And like I said, of course, Sonam and Mehak will be in touch with you, give you some information. But if there's specifics that you're looking for, please keep asking, put them in the chat box. And I'm going to wait for another one or two questions. Priya and Turan, may I invite you one by one to reflect on your own experience? You both sat in Lumina Spark workshops. And what was it that you took away? So Priya, given that you were there recently, do you want to just give a quick comment that might help people?
Absolutely, Rahul. Um, I was just at this Lumina workshop by Rahul just over the weekend, the Friday, Saturday. It's not even been a week now. And I must say, I was blown with the accuracy of the report. I did not expect, and it was in plain English terms, and this was my first experience with any psychometric assessment. I have done PQ, I have done Strength Finder, just as taking the test and knowing the report, but then not really dwelled into it in detail. But this was so accurate, and even the workshop that Rahul was conducting was so interactive that I could just get the hang of it in just a matter of 1.5 days. And I did come across all the aspects and everything that like I shared in the beginning, I'm a blue red, and I always took pride in it because I was outcome focused and down to earth. Whatever that's required for my profession, I took so much of pride in it. But I think with the report, I realized what are my overextended qualities, and surprisingly my overextended also came into blue and red, and I could actually sense where is that rigidity causing the friction for me. So that was quite an eye opener. I am here in this webinar only to know more about it because I've already kind of become a big fan, and I have already reached out to Rahul as well because I have a leadership training that's coming up, and I intend to use a little bit of Lumina concepts there because the activities are also very, very interactive. There are lots of fun in the activities, and most of us were coaches and leaders from the industry. We just completely enjoyed the workshop. So it's not for promotion, but I'm just talking from the heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so glad, and I know that was your first exposure to a psychometric. And I think Turan has used some psychometrics before, but again, not so much, right?
Long back, but I was certified on DISC and Parovi, and we used to use it long back. But then last year, I had attended the Lumina workshop, not last year, this year, but some time back. And what actually struck me was the ease of understanding and accuracy, of course, but the ease of understanding. And you could actually see the contradiction parts also very, very clearly. So those stand out. And then the report also shows that how you can actually I mean, you can adapt to different situations by calling on, what behaviors you want to demonstrate or what qualities you want to, which are required in that particular situation. So you become conscious of that. Okay, I mean, this is what my natural style is, but if I want to adapt, I can adapt. And what do I need to, and how do I adapt to that? So that was the point which struck me quite a lot.
And that's important. I mean, you got to be the first guinea pig, right? You got to be able to be convinced that if it's sitting accurately with you. Of course, none of us have all the aspects, right? None of us have all the qualities. But if we start with us, then we are able to teach others. Remember, we are coaches and trainers. We don't need to be an expert on everything. We just need to be able to facilitate the model. But we need to be able to step out with a conviction. Many of us are sometimes in situations, whether we're running a workshop or a tool that we are not fully convinced about. And our audience knows it. They know an actor. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to definitely stop and just formally close this session. I want to thank everybody for participating today. I hope some of you will take the next step towards engaging with us a little bit more. Meghna, I'll be thrilled to come back and start working together again. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
I was just about to say that, somebody who's been using Hogan for so many years, this is just so beautiful because everything is in the same language. And, when you kind of look at the simplicity, for me, logical and the discussion that you had with Vivek kind of connected so many things within me that I'm like, wow, this makes sense.
Yeah, and we don't even have to wait to the report. We just use the Lumina framework. Now, that said, Hogan is my guru. I learned everything from them. But Hogan was my intellectual piece. I've certified 500 people. No apologies. I did that. But
Me included.
but you included, and a large number of people who are back now in the Lumina folder, people I had put through Hogan. But Lumina is my soul journey. And for those of you, the day I lived the message I give to people, that embrace yourself, have the courage to own your strengths, was the day I picked up the brush. And after 28 years, I started painting. I've had 3 solo shows. And at this point in time, I'm just working closely, inviting people in the fold. So we have a running community. I don't have to go and consult. I support you guys to go there, build the business, and I spend more time in my studio. That's my honest confession to where I'm headed. But lovely to have everybody over here. Hope you had a good time. Hope you got some good insights for yourself. Thank you so much. Sonam, thank you for putting this together. Mehak, any last words? Mehak is the go-to person for our practitioner community. Do you want to wrap it up, Mehak?
I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure, and being the person who's kind of scouting practitioners to grow this community. I'd love to see more of your faces joining the community soon. Thank you.
Thank
You don't have to
you.
put so much effort. And Meghna, delightful to see you. I think we should reconnect and collaborate once again.
Oh, wonderful. Lovely.
Yeah.
Those of you who are going to IF in Pune, Mehak will be there. So hopefully you'll get to meet. Yeah, Vivek, you'll be there? Okay, lovely. All right.
Both me and Sonam will be there, so we'll be
Lovely.
seeing you guys.
Looking forward.
Same
All
here.
right.
Good
And
to
Jeff,
see you, Mehak. Bye, Rahul. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Jeff, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Rahul. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Lovely.
Great session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
everyone. Thanks, Rahul. Thanks, Mac.
Thank you.